Hey, welcome, friends. Super excited to be here with you at the first week of June 2025. I'm here with Landon Vick. Landon, so glad you've come out to speak to us today.
Thanks,
Um,
Elijah.
Tell us a little bit about yourself, what you do, your family. Give us a little bit of background on who you are and what you do.
Sure. I own a branch of Raymond James Financial Services.
Hmm.
And so for nearly 20 years now, I've worked in financial services.
20
Um,
years.
yeah,
Wow,
yeah.
man. Long enough to be dangerous.
Long enough to be dangerous.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you.
It's been a wonderful experience.
Hmm.
Um, I came to Cookeville to attend Tennessee Tech.
Okay.
Met my wife there. We have 6 kids.
Six
And
children.
yes,
Wow, man. What's the ages?
oldest is 20.
Okay.
So, I mean, if we want to go down the ladder, it's 20, 18, 16, 14, almost 14, and 11. Yeah,
Okay.
11.
Wow, that's great. That's
It's
great.
wonderful.
So you've got a full family. You met your wife at Tech.
Mhm.
What did you go to Tech for? Did for your degree in financing or?
The night before I moved in, I took their catalog and looked at all the majors,
Yes.
and I just started marking through stuff,
Mm.
and I
Mhm.
looked at, I thought about being a teacher, and maybe being a golf coach. I'm like, no, no, don't do that. I talked about being an engineer when I was younger, but I knew that was tough.
Mhm.
Um, it finally just came down to business. Like, I could see myself working in business in some capacity.
Mhm.
As the years went on at Tennessee Tech, finance, it became clear, was kind of what I was geared for. So
So did you come right out of college, Landon, and get started right in your career of financing?
when I finished my undergrad at Tech, I did
Mhm.
their MBA program.
Mhm.
And so towards the end of my MBA program, I actually invested in real estate. I don't know if
Mm.
we've talked about this,
Mm-mm.
but myself and 2 other people started what we called Middle Tennessee home buyers.
Oh, wow.
This was cash for your house type situation,
Yes.
but before there were TV shows about it.
Mhm.
And so,
Before Grant Cardone.
right, right. Uh, Great experience.
Mhm.
We would buy and rehabilitate properties. Had a few rental properties. So I did that for about 2 years. But during that time, I also began to work in financial services part time.
Mm.
And so when I made a decision that I felt like that was the path that made more sense for me,
Okay.
and it's
Well,
been good.
with that being said, how do you feel that real estate does work into an investment profile? Like, how does real estate fit into investing? And I know you offer people to invest in all types of stocks, or I think the word you use is business and companies.
Sure.
So how does the real estate piece fit with that, or does it?
Yeah. Well, I think real estate is fundamentally probably one of the biggest investments that many people make.
Mm-hmm.
It may not be everyone's largest investment.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I think about how it fits an investment plan, it doesn't fit the way that many things do, in the sense that I'm building a portfolio, to live off of one day.
Mm-hmm.
But I think if you think of all of life as an investment,
Mm-hmm.
then real estate for most people is their primary residence,
Yes.
and it takes on a whole nother complexion.
Mm-hmm.
And so for most people, when you think about their financial plan and investing in real estate as a primary residence, then you're really thinking about how much do we need to devote to this? How much of our monthly budget should a house take up?
Hmm.
Which um, the rules of thumb out there are like 35%,
Mm-hmm.
of your
Mm-hmm.
gross, or
Mm-hmm.
things like that.
When the banks get ready to loan, they're definitely looking down on that too.
Right.
They're really paying attention to that number.
Exactly.
Hmm.
But
Because
if
they
you
don't want you to get leveraged with a home. They don't want you to get too high where your home payment's so high that you can't afford to breathe.
right.
Yeah.
And what many people may not recognize is that as much as you might want that
Mhm.
house, if it takes away from the other investments that you want to
Mhm.
make,
Mhm.
the other things that you want to do in life, then yeah, you really shouldn't do that. Um, but just beyond that, since the primary residence is the way most people experience a real estate investment, I think one of the biggest considerations is, what do you guys always say? Location, right?
Location, location,
Right.
location. Those are the
Yeah,
three keys.
exactly. And so for like a family, location is huge.
Mm-hmm.
It's how close is it to the schools that you want to be in? How close is it to your friends, that may live in the same area? And so location is huge, amenities, are big. And so I see all those as part of the investment someone should be thinking about.
Absolutely.
Is how real estate fits into their life.
Yeah, and real estate, of course, is an appreciating asset. It appreciates nationally at a 5% over the course of every year. It'll go up 5% nationally. Tennessee, we had a 70% jump in the last 5 years. So, but what's the stock done in the last 5 years or so, depending on the investments you're working with? Have you seen it jump up as well?
I was looking at some of those numbers. So I've got a longer time frame that I looked at, but it lines up with exactly what you said, Elijah. From 92 through 2004, annually housing grew at about 5.5. Okay.
That's right.
Yeah. If we think about companies over that period of time, and when I say that, companies in the S&P 500. So 500 largest
that makes
US.
sense. Yep.
They returned a little over 10 over that same period of time.
Oh man.
Now you can't invest, I have to say, you can't invest directly in an index technically, and that includes dividends being reinvested. But yeah, so a little bit over 10.
And that appreciation would work similar with a home, because every year it appreciates 5%, and then you put the 5% on top of that, and that's similar to what a dividend may look like. Somewhat.
To some degree.
Yeah, and I'm definitely still learning on that end, so I appreciate you taking time. I read an article the other day. It said about 68% of all people invest in the stock now. So that means a lot of people still don't understand the stock, how it works, or what it does.
Right.
But when you say that word 10%,
right,
if we're paying attention, that ought to definitely catch our ears, because 10% return on your investment is a big deal.
Sure.
What, with the clients that you're working with currently, what is their average investment, or is there an average investment? Like, what's too little to get started with? Let me ask that. Like, how low could you go and get started in purchasing companies or stock?
Right.
Into 500.
Yeah. Well, I won't speak directly about me per se, but you can begin an investment plan with some of the tools that are out there today with $25,
Wow.
$50,
Wow.
$100.
Oh, wow.
When you think about some of the tools that are out there it's not anything that I do, but Robinhood, and these different different apps that have made investing so accessible. They can be a little dangerous, because you're just kind of playing with things to some degree.
Oh yeah.
But they can really be used as a tool, to start an investment program. But for most people, their initial investments are going to be through their employers.
Okay.
Through 401k plans.
Okay. Got it.
And before that, Roth IRAs should probably be part of the picture. So it doesn't take a lot to get started for anyone. And there are tons of great options.
That's good. So there's really no too little amount, $25.
Right.
I remember when we grew up, my dad's mother gave us bonds. They were $25 bonds. And I don't remember how long they had to go till they matured, but I just remember thinking that's really cool that you could take $25, invest it, and get a return on it.
Sure.
As far as tax advantages go with real estate, do you see any good tax advantages with home ownership?
Yeah. So if we're thinking about your primary residence, so like you own the home, you live in the home, I think the biggest benefit for people is the capital gains exclusion.
Okay.
So if you live in the property for 2 out of the last 5 years,
2 out of 5 years,
you can sell and exclude married filing jointly.
Yeah.
Okay. If you're married filing jointly, $500,000 in capital gains are just excluded.
So if you sold it for $700,000, $500,000 of that would be excluded. $200,000 would be capital gains tax. Is that correct?
If that was your capital gain, right? I think
if that was your capital gain, depending on how much you put into it, what you may have added to it.
Sure,
gotcha.
Yeah. If you're a single filer, it's only $250,000.
Okay.
But I think practically for most people, that's the tax benefit that they'll experience the most. When they sell, if they qualify. Beyond that, for people who, we're talking about taxes, so you should always talk to your accountant about the things.
Definitely, man.
But the the thing that most people interact with, if they itemize their deductions, okay, so when we talk about filing your federal tax return, and everybody gets the standard deduction automatically, but if you're able to itemize, and those itemized expenses exceed your standard deduction, then that's the number that you use to offset your income. And so mortgage interest expense is part of that. State and local taxes, so property taxes, county taxes, they can be lumped into that number.
Okay.
But the reason that I led with capital gains exclusion is because many people don't get the benefit of those anymore. Because in 2017, the Tax Cuts and Jobs Creation Act, it made our standard deduction so much bigger that only the numbers I've seen are 10 to 13% of people itemize.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And so not a lot of people are itemizing anymore. So there is that tax benefit of mortgage interest, taxes.
But again,
but a lot of people aren't really using it.
Me and you both are men that believe in the Bible, and I know the Bible says that my people perish for lack of knowledge. And that's just a hole that a lot of people aren't paying attention to, it sounds like.
Probably so. Well, Elijah, a lot of people don't look at their tax return.
Yeah, I'm guilty.
Well, I mean, you trust your accountant, and I'm a big proponent of using an accountant to do your taxes.
Me too.
And you want someone standing there if anything, if anything's called into question. But often it's done, you're thankful it's done, and you forgot about it till next year.
Yeah. And your accountant would be the one that would know that, right? So
absolutely.
If you have an accountant, they should be paying attention to those things.
Absolutely.
And of course, you would ask them, has everything been itemized? Have all the deductions been taken out?
Right. So
that I can sell this and not have to pay any gains on it and get to keep those taxes that you would be paying out at 15, 20% or higher.
Right.
Yeah. So that's a big coupon. That's a big savings. And getting ahead in life is a lot of that is about savings.
Sure.
You don't have to have a six-figure income to be a net worth millionaire, but you do got to be smart and understand things that you're talking about right there.
Yeah.
As far as retirement goes, when you're working with real estate as you've paid attention, what do you see retirement looking like in being a homeowner?
I think it changes dramatically, Elijah. When my wife and I bought the house that we've lived in for 15 years, I still remember touring the house. It was much bigger than the house we'd been in. Our family was growing. There was even this moment where she was, it was like something out of a movie. I had lost track of her, and she'd gone into the backyard. And it was a huge backyard, much bigger than what we had. And it's like the clouds parted and the sun shined down on her. And she's running across the backyard saying, we have to get this house. We have to get this house. And it was, in so many ways, it was perfect. But I don't want to retire in it. And part of that is it's a split level, okay? So I'm already tired of navigating those stairs after 15 years.
Yes.
But there are other things about it that are attractive. So when I think about retirement housing, like how should we think about our housing decisions, our real estate decisions in retirement? I think one of the most important things you should think about is community. Your real estate and where you live can give you access to other people. And retirement for some people is one of the most lonely and isolating times of their lives. Okay.
Yeah.
And so that's why places like locally Fairfield Glade, or like Lake Tansy, or these other places are so popular because you've got community.
Yeah, I get that. I've absolutely never thought of that.
Well,
I've been in real estate sales nearly 20 years, and that's never really dawned on me. But obviously, that's why people will kind of get around a boating community or a lake community or a golf course community. All that really does play in. And a lot of folks moving here from different states are probably seeing that.
Right.
When I grew up, Landon, it was on 50 acres in Walling. My folks suffered a fire, then they moved to Doyle.
Okay.
And we were on probably back there on 25 acres, very isolated, very private. And so I've always thought that's what people want. But as I've now again 20 years as a licensed sales agent, I see that is not what people ultimately want. They want something with a little bit of community and being able to go out and enjoy golf or lakes or close to all the amenities of Cookeville or close to tech. All those things really play into it. So that is very important.
Yeah.
As far as retirement goes too, studying a little bit, I read this the other day. At 65, the people that are homeowners, when they retire, they'll have a net worth. So take everything they own, pay down their debts. If you sold everything, they have a net worth of about $400,000.
Okay.
The average tenant who has pretty well rented their whole life at 65 when they're ready to retire has a net worth of $18,000.
Oh wow.
Can you believe that?
Yeah.
It's hard though, ain't it?
Sure.
But what's that tell us, Landon? That tells us that we as Americans are poor savers. About the only thing that we're really putting our money in that brings a return is our home, which is great. I mean, we should be a home ownership nation. That's a good thing about being an American, is that you do have a place to call your home. For the majority of people that are still homeowners. But now in your profession, you're able to teach and guide people into all kind of other places to invest their money that can bring a return on top of potentially their home when they retire at 65. What got you excited about finances? What really turned you on to kind of get in that position, being able to help people with their?
In a lot of ways, it was, Elijah, the experiences I had when I was younger. So my family had no need of a financial advisor. There wasn't a need for that service, when I was growing up. And so there
were reasons for that?
Yeah. Well, I had a number of experiences where I recognized either through things that I maybe wanted to do that we simply couldn't, or the kind of like the guilt of using my family's money, or asking for it in certain ways.
You had a level of respect for that.
Right. And so it created in me this desire to definitely do my best to manage my money well, and a real appreciation for how valuable those resources are.
They're limited and they're very valuable.
And as I grew, a desire not to just do that for myself, but as a desire to help other people make just good financial decisions.
And what a blessing that is. Zig Ziglar said that, money isn't everything, but it's right up there with oxygen. You got to have it to live, level. So, and a lot of people are going to be coming into their retirement ages at 65 and stressing, especially if they don't own a home and they've rented, because they've got nothing to show for it. And you're able to take people's investments and put them into companies that bring a good return over time. What excites you the most about what you do? Like I appreciate how you got started. Obviously, you guys didn't have a lot to take care of. As you've grown, you became a good steward of what you have. You have a beautiful family, 6 children, and you want to make sure they're taken care of. So you got every good reason to take care of your finances. What really gets you excited? Like, what's your ideal client? Who do you really love to serve? And I'm sure there's probably nobody you're going to exclude, right? Like I'm happy with. But is there an age group? Is there a certain?
Yeah, sure. Well, the way I think of it is who can I best serve and add the most value?
Oh, that's great.
Okay, so who is that type of person?
That's perfect.
And so, so you're right. I could work with many types of people, add value in many different ways. But for the people, kind of the folks that you've been touching on, that are right on the cusp of retirement, they're trying to figure out, how much income do I need to come in? Where's that income going to come from? How do I not get killed by taxes in the process?
Right.
Okay. How do I make sure this lasts?
Yes.
And that it lands in the places I want it to land in the future.
So they can have a good quality of life.
Absolutely. So those and people in that season of life are also making decisions about their estates. They're trying to understand Social Security and Medicare and all the stuff that comes with retirement. Those are the people that I'm trying to serve. That's where I feel like I add the most value.
That's great. Yeah. What a great way of answering that question, right? And it's so true in any profession. You learn how to help in a lot of different ways. And mine, I'm going to specialize in residential sales.
Mm-hmm.
For a long time, I specialized in working with folks that were buying in residential sales, and then went to the listing side a little more. So I'm going to add more value there.
Right.
I'm not as good at the others. Not saying I couldn't, and I
Sure,
would
you
still
could.
add a lot of great value, but I'm going to
Right.
really be in my zone and in that spot of being able to help those people and add the most value. That's a great way of saying it,
Right.
Landon.
Right.
Landon, if people wanted to get a hold of you and they wanted to talk to you about retirement or what that would look like for them, what would be the best way to get a hold of you?
My website is landonvick.com.
Okay.
So landonvick.com. The easiest thing to do is, and the way that I take a first step with anybody, is to just schedule a 15-minute phone call.
Okay.
And in that phone call, my whole objective is to understand what they're looking for, make sure that I'm actually a good fit for that. And so then from that call, we can decide if there's a better place for them to land or if we should move forward.
So just 15 minutes.
Yeah, that's
it. Go to, tell me that email again, or that website.
landonvick.com.
Landonvick.com. Right. Have a 15, and then from there, you'll reach out to them. Is there a phone number we could reach you at?
Yeah, the phone number is 931-400-0140.
Okay. And that conversation is going to last about 15 minutes, a discovery conversation. And from there, you can figure out how you can best help that person
Absolutely
attain the goals that they're looking to do. Okay,
absolutely.
Great.
Yeah.
Landon, appreciate you coming today. I hope we get to do this more often. And guys, if you can be of any service to you, reach out to Mr. Landon. I'm sure he'd be glad to assist you in any way possible. Thank you very much. Hope you all have a great rest of your week.
Thank you.